not to the famous pyramids of Egypt or the Colosseum of Rome, but to a place far more mysterious and equally influential. We are journeying to Mesoamerica, around 200 BC, to a city that held the keys to cosmology, mythology, and the very concept of time for an entire region. For decades, scholars thought Izapa was just another minor ceremonial center, a stepping stone to the great Maya civilization. But what if I told you that was completely wrong? What if Izapa wasn't just a precursor, but a primary source, the cradle of ideas that would shape empires for over 1,000 years? Recent discoveries and a fresh look at its incredible art are rewriting the history books. So, where exactly is Izapa? Nestled in the lush, humid coastal plains of Chiapas, Mexico, near the border with Guatemala. This was a strategic location. It was a crossroads of trade, linking the highlands with the Pacific coast. Imagine bustling markets filled with exotic goods, brilliant green quetzal feathers, sharp obsidian for tools and weapons, and most importantly, cacao, the food of the gods, which was likely used as a form of currency. This economic might was the foundation upon which Izapa built its cultural empire. The city itself was a sprawling complex of mounds, plazas, and courts. Unlike the towering stone pyramids of the later Maya, Izapa structures were primarily built of earth and river cobbles, faced with clay. While they may not look as imposing today, back in 200 BC, these plazas would have been alive with activity. Picture this: huge open spaces, meticulously maintained, where thousands of people would gather for rituals, markets, and important community events. The air would be thick with the smell of copal incense, the sounds of drums and chants echoing off the temple platforms. Let's use our AI reconstruction to bring one of these plazas to life. See the main platform mound? This wasn't a tomb. It was a stage for the city's rulers and priests. From this elevated position, they would address the public, perform sacred rites, and display their connection to the divine. The city was aligned with remarkable astronomical precision, tracking the movements of the sun, the moon, and Venus. This wasn't just for farming. It was a display of cosmic authority. To control time was to control destiny. But the real treasure of Izapa isn't its buildings. It's the art carved onto its stone monuments, or stelae. Izapa has more carved stelae than almost any other pre-classic site. These aren't just pretty pictures. They are complex narratives, religious texts written in stone. This is where things get truly fascinating. It's an incredibly dense and detailed scene. At the center is a massive world tree, its branches reaching into the heavens and its roots into the underworld. Flanking the tree are two figures, likely ancestors or deities. All around them, we see a whirlwind of mythological action. Scholars have spent lifetimes trying to decode this single stone. Some see connections to the Popol Vuh, the sacred book of the Maya, which was written down much later. This suggests that the core stories of Mesoamerican mythology didn't start with the Maya. They were being told and carved into stone here, at Izapa, centuries earlier. Let's zoom in with our AI enhancement. Look at the water symbols at the bottom, representing the primordial sea of creation. See the celestial bird deity at the very top of the tree? And the figures on the ground, engaged in what appears to be a sacred conversation. This isn't just a static image. It's a dynamic story of creation, lineage, and the structure of the cosmos itself. They used a visual language that was so powerful and so clear that its themes would be repeated across Mesoamerica for centuries. Another key theme at Izapa is the principal bird deity. This supernatural being, often depicted as a magnificent bird with serpentine features, used for divination, scheduling festivals, and legitimizing royal power. And it seems Izapa was a major center for its development and dissemination. So why isn't Izapa more famous? Part of the reason is timing. It flourished in the pre-classic period, and history tends to be written by the winners or the civilizations that left behind the biggest, most enduring stone cities, like the classic Maya. Also, Izapa's influence was more subtle. It wasn't an empire of conquest, but an empire of ideas. It spread its religion, its art style, and its scientific knowledge through trade and cultural exchange. Think of it like ancient Athens. Its power wasn't in its armies, but in its philosophy and culture that shaped the entire Western world. Izapa was the Athens of pre-classic Mesoamerica. As we walk through our digital reconstruction of the city in 200 BC, you can feel the energy. The main plazas are alive. Priests are preparing for a ceremony to mark the winter solstice. Traders from the distant highlands of Oaxaca are negotiating deals for obsidian. Young boys are watching scribes carefully incise a new stela, learning the sacred stories of their people. This was a city of knowledge, a religious pilgrimage site, and an economic hub all in one. It was a place where the foundational myths, calendars, and artistic styles of a civilization were being forged. By the time the classic Maya period began around 250 AD, Izapa's influence had already spread far and wide. When you look at the art of Tikal or Palenque, you can see the ghost of Izapa in the composition, in the deities, in the very way they depicted power and the cosmos. The scribes and artists of the Maya courts were working from a playbook that had been written centuries before at Izapa. The decline of Izapa is as mysterious as its rise. It was never violently destroyed or abandoned. Instead, it seems its importance just slowly faded as new powers, like the Maya city-states, rose to prominence. But its legacy never died. It was absorbed, adapted, and built upon. It became part of the cultural DNA of Mesoamerica. We can see it for what it truly was, a vibrant, innovative, and profoundly influential city that laid the groundwork for some of the world's most fascinating civilizations. Izapa wasn't just a stop on the road to the Maya. It was the source from which the river of Mesoamerican culture flowed. The story of Izapa shows us that history is always evolving, and there are still so many secrets waiting to be uncovered. If you enjoyed this digital reconstruction, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next exploration into the lost worlds of the past. See you next time.